Greetings YouTube and welcome to my next weapons build. I would like to build a halberd, at least a small scale halberd, and I want to try it out. This is a design idea I'm coming up with. I don't know if the design idea is going to work, so we're just going to give it a try and see how well I like it. And if I do like it, I may upgrade the idea for another project or put this on a better shaft. I have a shaft here. It's I think it's 1 inch diameter, but it's aluminum, so it's light, and it's decent sized. I mean, it comes to here, so it's, yeah, it comes up to the bridge of my nose, so it's not a bad size. And what I'm going to do is I want to build the main blade out of this. This piece of steel here is 21 inches long. I'm probably going to put 6 inches of it inside the shaft. Probably won't use that hole, won't really work. And then I'd like to have 3 inches of it or so, and have that where I mount an axe blade on one side and a point on the other. So I will be using this. This is from another project I did a while back where I built a couple of different versions of a battle axe using a store-bought handle, and the handle had 3 bolt holes through it already. It was designed, I can't remember what tool it was designed for, but the holes were in it already and it was very easy. It was just a matter of cutting this to shape, putting it in the handle and bolting it together. So, and it was removable. I had 2 different blade designs and I put them up in 2 different weapon builds. And I decided I didn't like this one as much as I liked the other blade, so I'm going to reuse this one. But it's a little wider than I want, so I'm probably going to knock ½ an inch off of each side, which still gives me all 4 of these holes available to use. And I'm not going to need it to be this long, so I'm going to probably cut straight up here, and then figure out if I have to come any closer than that. And this I will probably save maybe potentially for another project. Maybe I just recycle it, who knows. But this will give me the axe blade, which will fit here on one side of this blade. And on the other side of the blade, I want to use this section here to build a back spike of some variety. Haven't decided what shape I want. I'm thinking on this. It's a rough one because I've got this hole here, so I really want to because I want the maximum amount. So I don't want to cut it here. It would be too short. So since I want the maximum amount, I may have to have it be kind of a scalpel shape. So starting here with the curve that then comes to here, and then you get a straight edge to there. And maybe I'll cut out a little spot here just for fun to give it maybe a sharpening choil kind of vibe. That wouldn't be too difficult to do. I can just do that with a broaching bit and then clean it up with my angle grinder. But that might make it interesting just visually, because you'd have this curve right there denoting the spot where the blade ends, and then this section is the axe handle, the axe blade facing this way, and then the back spike going that way. And I'm going to initially just cut it along this radius to get the maximum width. Then I can know what I can play with, because I'm probably going to end up having to shape this to be narrower, because I don't want it to be as wide as this. So this section in here may end up becoming a little bit funky, but it will be inside the handle, so it's not the worst thing if that happens. Now that I think about it, I may want to bump the whole thing up to here, lose an inch of blade, move everything up a bit, because that hole right there is going to be a pain in the butt. So I may want to get rid of it, just cut right there and then to the edge and then make it go away, because having that here is probably going to be difficult. This will end up staying, but I don't care. Again, this is a post-apocalyptic vibe. There's an extraneous hole in this thing. There's an extraneous hole in this thing. I can always use it to hang it on the wall if I want when I'm done. But yeah, that might be the best idea. Come straight across here, lose that part of the blade, just get rid of it. And then I have a clean slate to have this be in the tube, but slightly wider, so that it's a positive stop. I'll put a hole this way through the shaft. I already have one hole here, and I'll probably use that. There's actually a clip which I just pushed down inside, and that clip was part, because this was a 2-part at one point, I guess. I don't have the other part. I just picked this up at a yard sale. So yeah, so use that as one hole, and then make another hole down here, and then a cross hole at 6 inches, and then when we cut to that with a slot, and then the blade will come down and sit in that hole. That's the bottom stop. And then the two bolts going this way will hold it in place. Because with a blade this big, I'm gonna have to use 2 holes. I can't use just one. All right, so the first thing I'm gonna do then is going to be cutting this along that radius. And here we have the 2 blanks rough cut. Obviously it's not perfect, but it'll get me to where I want to be. Haven't decided what this shape's going to be yet. That's going to be the back blade. I left that point on there just in case I needed it, but I cut off the rest that I wasn't going to need. So this is going to be the back one, and this is going to be the main blade. So now I'm going to have to lay out some lines, go from 6 inches from here up, and then have that be the section inside the shaft. I'll have to figure out what shape I want it to be. I believe it's 1 inch. I'll confirm it's 1 inch, and then I'll probably make this section down here 1.5, so that it's just a little bit wider. Because again, I want to have very positive seating in this particular shaft. And then I'll go up 3 inches from there, because that's how wide I want the back spike and the axe head to be. And then I will put the relief cut in. While it's in one big piece, that's be the easiest way to do that. Put the relief cut for that little choil I mentioned, and then once I have that done, lay out the line I want to follow, and then lay that out in a nice gentle curve. I don't really have any curved objects down here that I could use. Maybe I could fashion one, or I have to go upstairs and go get a French curve. I've got some plastic French curves upstairs, which I had used when I used to be doing a lot of sketches. Nowadays, I don't really sketch because I just make the thing, which is far more interesting in most ways. Just make the thing, you know? I am going to have to clean that up, obviously get rid of that radius, because I don't want the radius there. That'll have to go away. Gonna have to lay a straight line down for that. I don't think I can get that off of my angle grinder with the cutoff blade. I'm probably just gonna have to grind that off. We'll see. I've got an 8. I got a 60 grit wheel sitting around. That might help to get rid of that. Maybe I can cut some of it off to speed that process up. I don't know. We'll see how much room I want to use, because the radius does make me lose some of this blade width, because it's right there, so it's only going to be from like that point to the edge that I can actually salvage. That last 1/4 inch is going to have to go, because it's just that I don't want that radius present. It just doesn't help me in any way. Alrighty, so now to lay some lines down and clean this up, I guess, will be my next task. And then again, that one I will not clean up until I know what shape it's going to be. I kind of know what shape this is going to be, so I can work on this next. So I guess the next step is going to be lay some straight lines down and then clean up that edge. This is done. It's a little bit wider than I originally intended, but I like the spacing and overall, and I'll be using 2 holes. One of these holes will not work, but that's okay. 2 is just fine. And I've decided that this is the shape I want. Now, this curve right there that's probably a temporary thing. That's probably going to get blended in with the rest of the blade in a minute. Because this space in here, from that line right there to here, is where this blade goes. This blade goes in like that. Okay? And this is going to be the edge that we're working with. So this hole that I had talked about earlier is actually going to end up underneath the plate and underneath the back spike. So you're never really going to see it. So essentially I've covered that up. And I've decided that I want to preserve this straight edge, which is whatever this piece of metal was, I got it as scrap, literally by the side of the road. Somebody put it on Craigslist, and I went, cool, I can use this for something. This is that something. So I've decided that it's going to come at 1/4 inch, so the tubing will be, I'll probably round that off, this corner off. But, so this is going to sit in the, right into the tubing so that it will be firmly seated, okay? And then this is going to come up to that line and then curve like that. And that is what's going to be inside the tube. So you're only going to see a little sliver of the actual metal, and the holes for the actual handle are going to be right in the center of those two lines. So they're going to be one, whatever the one on the piece of tubing is, so probably one there and one down here. Because that's 1 inch wide, which is what the blade, which is the handle is, and I wanted 1/4 inch in, so that dictated what I could take off of this and make it look decent. Now, that's not much of a bite on the outside edge, so now that I look at it, I may want to move that over just a smidge. Just a smidge. So yeah, I'll probably erase that. I like that curve, so I'm going to keep that curve, and I'll probably just move that over just a hair on that one. Yeah, now that I look at it. So I can do that. That's why I have a bottle of alcohol down here. It's for erasing marker, so that I can, erasing Sharpie, so that I can then put down new lines. So yeah, so I'll get rid of those 2 straight lines, and then I'll put down what I want, and we'll be good to go. Excellent. But again, that's finished. This is going to be the preliminary cut to clean this up and make the section for the inside, the shank, essentially. This section here will be where I drill holes, and up here is where I'm going to be working on the blade. So what I'm going to do is, once I get this finished, I'll lay the holes out for this. I'll, just mark the steel where I want to put them, figure out the shape I want on the top section, and then figure out where I want to put the relief cut for the kind of choil idea I'm playing with. So, and that way I'll drill all 3 of those holes in this at once. This is already done, and then there's the matter of cutting that, shaping it up, and then drilling the holes in that. So this section is coming along quite nicely. I'm quite happy with my progress on this. So I'm going to reset that line and then do some more cutting. Here we have the basic layout. So this is the profile I'm going to use. Yes, I have essentially made a kind of short machete style blade, but I'm okay with that. I kind of like the vibe. And again, that hole is not useful to me. This hole and these are 2 marks are going to be the holes, but I had to move them because my first desire was to put it here. That's too close to this one, so I had to move it over there. Because I'm trying to preserve as much blade length as I can. So that's where it's going to go. That mark, that second mark in there, the second one in, is where the relief, the choil I'm going to put in is going to go. And I had to change that because I forgot how much of a curve was on the back of this. So the top was flat, and so I'm like, oh, okay, that's fine. Then there's that curve of the radius, so I had to move the whole edge in to get rid of that. Then I set up my angle grinder here to kind of clean up the edge, and so I could look down the edge lengthwise, kind of looking at it like that to see, if it was as straight as I wanted it to be. Well, I seem to have cut myself. So that was now where I want it. So now it's going to be coming to the drilling stage. When I'm done with the drilling part, I will have a good idea of where everything's going to go on this and this. Then it's on to that one right there. Figure out what shape I want. I'm thinking I'm going to go with a fairly the depth of this, whatever that is. I don't know what it is at this point. The depth of this, we're at roughly 2.5 inches. Probably pretty short. It'll probably not end up being much longer than that. I kind of want to make an angle. I kind of want to make it a stabbing blade. I think that would be the most useful thing. This is for soft targets, and then the point in the back is for heavier targets when you're trying to get through a piece of armor or something. So yeah, that is how I think it's going to go. And again, this hole is going to be almost completely covered up. You'll never really see it when I'm finished. So I don't really care that it's there. And I did round those over, and this is all nicely deburred and everything. So this is now going to be the section that goes inside the handle, the shaft rather. And I'm going to have to trim back the rubber coating on that. I have to make a mark and trim that off, so I can peel that off. That I can start working on drilling the 3 holes that have to go in it. One for the relief of the cut, and then the other 2 for going through this handle itself. One of which is already in there, which I'll be using as it is, and then another one I'll have to drill, which will be a virgin hole, which I'll just, line up and then go right through. It's aluminum; it'll drill really nice. And then when that's finished, I can then put this inside the tube. Once I get the slot done and everything, I'll put it in there. I'll drill 1 hole. I'll mark it, drill it, get that to where I want it, tighten it, actually put the bolt in there, tighten it, and then do the last one. And when I'm finally finished, I'll have to decide when I want to actually sharpen that, and I haven't decided yet. I may want to get to the point where I'm just down to the last hole, and then I'll sharpen it before I drill the last one, so that when I put the last bolt through, I won't have to take anything out again. So it'll go in, it'll stay in, and then I'll be finished with that. And I'm not going to have to wrap the handle at all, the shaft, because the shaft's coming pre-wrapped. It's got rubber on it, so that's kind of cool. Which is why I'm using that shaft. I think it's a nice look. It'll go well with the black of the blade and the black of the shaft. I'm color coordinating my weapons builds. Isn't that cool? Okay, so now I'm done for the day. I'm tired. And I'm still on vacation, so I should not push myself, and head upstairs and relax. And my wife should be home. She's out taking a walk with a friend, and then it's time for relaxing and watching some movies. So I hope you folks all had a lovely New Year's, because when I'm recording this right now, it is New Year's Day 2021. We made it, folks. Anyone that's seeing this video, you made it through 2020. Congratulations. I've gotten to this stage of the process where I cut this to shape, and this is the shape I want. And I realize it's just too narrow. Because if I use this piece, it will not fit the 2 holes I have here. Because I'm trying to avoid drilling more holes in this. And if I could try to attach it from here to here, but that isn't very secure. I want a wider stance. If I use this piece of steel, which I've got left over from another project, it is wide enough. There's not a lot. I mean, it's not a huge amount. I mean, let's look at that. I mean, there's not going to be a lot on either side of that, but it will be more than this. Now, the downside is this is much thicker. Much thicker and much heavier. This is really the thickness and the look I want. So I think I'm going to shape this, do the rough shaping. I'm not going to, no edges or anything. That's going to be the bevel. That from there to there. Hopefully that will be the bevel. That's the width of the bevel I want. I'm going to give it a try. I'm going to shape it and see if that is secure. If I drill the 2 holes, move the blade up so that it's up here, and drill like a hole here and then a hole here, and put them as far apart as I can so that the edge of the bolt will be here and there to offer some stability. Will it be good enough? It will mean I'll have 3 bolts going through instead of 2, but it won't this will not be interfered with because the bolt will be going here. There'll be 2 bolts going through this way, right here, and then when this one will only be attaching this to the main blade, whereas these 2 holes will be attaching all 3 together and this to the main blade. So we've got multiple things going on here. But this is the size of material I want. I just really wish it was 3 inches wide, and it's not 3 inches wide, because I ended up having to take off so much to get that curve out of there, to get that radius from the bend that existed on it. So that's the problem. On the plus side, I'm really happy with that cut. It came out really nicely. I always enjoy a cut when I'm doing it comes out nice and straight. It always makes me feel good. So yeah, not super happy with this, but we're going to see how it works. And if it doesn't work, I will fit it before I put a bevel on it. I'll finish everything else. I'll finish shaping it, deburr it, everything that needs to be deburred, mostly so I don't cut myself. And then drill it. And then when I've got drilled, bolted together, then before I do any beveling on anything, make sure I like that. And if I don't, start over and make one out of this. So we'll see. We'll see if it works. Upwards and onwards. Woohoo! So there we have the overall design, and I'm happy with it. I'm going to go with this. The back spike has 2 holes, and it's resting on that bolt, so that's good as far as I'm concerned. I was very fortunate that I was able to find some 5/16 bolts in my collection. Most of the stuff I do on my builds are 1/4 inch. In fact, I got a couple of 1/4 inch bolts. They're going to be the ones used to hold the blade, the head in the shaft. But I got lucky and found 3 5/16 because the smallest broaching bit I've got is 5/16. I really would like to find one that's 1/4 inch, and then probably one that's maybe a 7/8 and one that's an inch. So I have to go poke around and see if Rotobroach offers other sizes. Because I really like the Rotobroach set. It does such a nice job cutting holes in this material. It just cuts through this stuff like butter. It really does. And I like the overall look. I like the size, the ratio of the blade to the back spike and to the blade up there. I like my little cutout. It serves no purpose, but I just think it's cool looking. So now it's going to be to disassemble it, because now I've shown that it works, and then start working on the grinds. I'll work on this one first, probably, and then that one. This will be the fastest of the two. I don't know if I'll get all of this done today. This is the second day on this particular project. Some projects take me far longer than other projects, and this one looks like it may be a 3-day project. I'm not sure. We'll see. But yeah, that's a good. I like the overall ratio of this. I actually think that aesthetically it would be a little better if this was a little thinner. But remember, there's going to be a 1-inch shaft coming up here, so you're not going to really notice this bulk here. The roundness of the shaft, I think, is going to help lighten up the overall design. I know that sounds weird that I'm making aesthetic decisions about my build, but I am in fact making aesthetic decisions about my build. And when I'm finished, I will, and everything's tight, 'cause this is snug, but it's not tight. I will like these two are not going to need any grinding. They're fine. The bolts are not showing beyond the nuts. I will probably grind that one down just a smidge, or maybe I'll just leave it there. Who knows? And yeah, I had to use a square nut because I found 2 hex nuts and 1 square nut. So you know you go with what you got. That's the beauty of an adjustable wrench. So yeah, I'm happy with the aesthetics on this. The proportions and the ratio. So now it's time to start making the grinds, and this will be the grind I work on first. And I'd like to get that grind right there. That would be ideal. And if I can't quite get there because it doesn't quite work out for me, don't care. I'm going to make all the marks from marker go away when I'm finished. That's the beauty of alcohol. Alcohol and a piece of paper towel make all your Sharpie markers go away. Okay, so on to grinding. So here we have the completed Halberd head with the grinds in place. They're not particularly even, I freely admit this. Again, I'm using an angle grinder to create these grinds, so you know, and I am not a professional. I'm trying my best. That's all I can do, just try my best. but they came to points. They got edge. They're not shaven sharp, but they definitely do harm, particularly if backed up with force. So this is now the completed project as far as the striking head goes. So now I have to now get the shaft drilled and split. So I'm going to drill it out first, and then I'll split it, and then modify it to fit this particular width. And once I have that done, it will be time to drill this out, and then the project will finally be done. This is a slow process. So doing it this way is going to be slightly hard, because I realize I'm going to have to drill a hole with this assembled, but I'm not taking this apart because I really happen to like the way this looks. It makes me very, very happy. So I'll just move my drill bench table, the drill press table to the side so it's not in my way. So yeah, awesome. And I didn't need to do anything with the bolts, because I just switched the nuts around. This nut was bigger than this nut, so I put the smaller nut on the shorter one and a larger nut on the longer one, and I put the square one in the middle just because. I had no particular reason. I just kind of like the look. So alrighty, so now to work on the shaft and then assemble this thing for its final form. Here we have all of the holes drilled that I need in this shaft. So this one was already here. There's a button. There's a snap button that I just shoved inside. It's still in the shaft. I don't care if it's in the shaft. So I just went through and drilled the other half of that hole. And then I drilled this one 3 inches from that one. And then I drilled this one, which is my relief hole. So now I need to cut a slot here. And once I get the piece of tubing aligned the way I want it aligned in the vise, I will cut a vertical slot through both ends, and then one slot through one side, roll it over, one slot through the other side, and then it's a process of nibbling that slot open till it's the width I need. I was surprised how rough this stuff is. It's plastic, but it's very, very stiff. Getting this off was a mess. That's why there's all these knife marks here as the utility knife, just trying to cut the stuff off and peel it off. I had to use a pair of pliers to pull it off. It was very rigid. I was quite surprised. So it's quite durable, which is kind of nice, you know, for me in the long run. But I didn't want to be cutting through it and the aluminum at the same time. Not to mention putting layout lines on this would have been a pain in the ass. But they're all vertical. It would have made getting things in line nice. But I was concerned about going through this, and in particular with cutting. I do not want an abrasive wheel or a diamond wheel hitting this stuff and starting to melt it or burn it. That's going to be nasty. So I would rather just have the aluminum exposed up here. So next up, get a vertical line, or get a line all the way from here to here set up so that I have something to follow, and then start the splitting process. So the shaft is split. I've drilled the first hole in this, and I've passed the first bolt through here. So now I am going to drill. I'm going to turn this 90 degrees and then drill through here while it's mounted. That way everything lines up the way it's supposed to, and I don't have to worry about measuring it and trying to get it to be exact, because that's a real nightmare. It's a heck of a lot easier to drill one hole, locate it, and then drill the other one through the plate, through this blade while it's mounted. But other than that, once that's done, this is a completed project. So the next clip you're going to see is me talking about how happy I am, or at least in theory. Let's see what happens when I get that hole drilled. So there we go, one completed halberd, and I got this not perfect, but I wanted to get this back of the blade straight with the shaft, and I got very close. So there you go. And having this in the aluminum shaft makes it very lively in the hand. It's really quite comfortable. It moves quite nicely, and I think I did a good job with this cutout. I think that cutout gives it a nice look. I enjoy that. The saw blade axe, back spike, I think this all came together really well. The fact that these are not the same width, I don't think is much of an issue, because I've got the line here to give a sense of visual continuity. Yeah, I know, I'm throwing some artistic terms at you to something that's really damn dangerous, but it's also very cool. I always wanted my own halberd, and here I go. This is probably not going to be the only thing I ever do when it comes to a halberd. I would like to make a proper halberd out of one contiguous piece of steel. I just need to find a source in my area where I can get sheet steel of the thickness I want and the type I want. And then hopefully not breaking the bank, because it's probably not going to be cheap. So I'd like to be able to maybe even find some salvage stuff. If I could find some salvage stuff like I did with this, approximately that thickness, which is about 1/8 of an inch, I think it would be perfect. I really do. So yes, I am very happy with this. So now it's time to go outside, take some stills with for this video, and also to take some stills for my Instagram. There will be a permanent storage on my DeviantArt page, so please check that out. It's in the links, and you can come see all the different weapon builds I have in their permanent home. So thank you all for being here today. I hope you enjoyed yourself, and I hope that you will be here for the next video. Have a good one.